Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, where we delve deep into the lives of our successful guests to learn the secrets of thriving to flourish abundantly in all areas of life. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. My guest today is a full-time practicing periodontist and author and founder of the weekly blog DebtFreeDoctor.com. He started his blog after paying off close to $300,000 in student loan debt and reaching millionaire status by the age of 40. He now focuses on helping other doctors and professionals create passive income from real estate so that they can stop trading their time for money. Welcome, Dr. Jeff Anzalone. Glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
And so let's get into your life here and how it is that you actually came about being the success that you are today. And you clearly have demonstrated success in many areas of your life, not just in real estate investing, but you certainly demonstrated success in becoming a physician to start with, which is not an easy thing to do. And then you demonstrated success in the fact that not only are you a practicing physician in the dental field, but you also started a private practice and have made a success of that. And so there are two major successes there. But then as you were practicing, you began to realize that you, not only your financial future was totally and completely dependent upon your ability to get up every morning and go to work, but that your family's financial financial position was at stake, just based upon the fact that you had to be there every day to bring in that income. And so because of that realization, you actually turned to real estate and have been successful in eliminating that aspect of you having to be there. So where did all of that begin? Let's go back to your childhood and tell us about a childhood memory. And as you look back on that childhood memory, you look on that as a formative experience in your life.
I do know now that I'm dealing with a psychologist, as I don't think I've ever had anybody ask me that before on these. So I do like that. And that's really what interested me, when you graciously reached out to have this interview. So I was really looking forward to, because I really love the study of psychology and just how it affects people just in every aspect of their life. So I thought this was going to be really interesting. And it's already proving to be.
Well, sure. I hope it is, but I want to clarify something. I'm not psychoanalyzing you, and that's not the purpose of this.
Yeah, but I think it's very. It's one of my interests is just the psychology of how people think, the successful people, what makes them different, the psychology of people, what people think about money, exactly. And work. Mm-hmm. Right. So, but to answer your question, I have a 15 and a 13-year-old, and I'm starting to more kind of look back, see how they're going through life. And it's really reminded me of a lot of things that I went through, and I'm trying to make it a point now to meet them where they are, to make sure that they keep going down the road to success and not kind of veer off on some of the things that some of their friends are having issues with, But my son is 15 right now, and he is working full time with a landscaper, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, which for a 15-year-old doing that kind of work, I mean, I'm really proud of him. But that reminds me, when I was about 12 or 13, I also got into the, not really landscape business, but mowing yards.
Mm-hmm.
How I got into it, I really don't know. I think my dad maybe asked me, hey, you want to make some money this summer? There's a couple yards across the street. You can use our mower. I can kind of show you how to do it. And I think once I started doing that and got a little taste of success and having my own money, whereas, my friends had to get it from daddy, I think that may be kind of where it started, the process of me always knowing that, hey, you know what, I probably wouldn't ever be able to work for somebody,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that may be where it started.
Well, good experience. I've talked to a lot of real estate investors who actually got their start in the landscaping and the lawn mowing industry.
Okay.
And they also, just like you, they found uh, that sense of independence, and it also, I think, it gave them that sense of understanding that they didn't have to turn to somebody else for money and for income. Um, and it also I think gave them that sense of that understanding that they could accomplish something uh, for themselves and in and of themselves. So that was a good start, but I know that medical school is a grueling experience, and it is not an easy thing to get through. So, talk to us a little bit about that experience and how it is that you managed to get through that grueling experience.
That's a good question. And after, I guess I just had my mindset in high school and college that I wanted to go into the healthcare field, and then had some relatives that were dentists. I had some other friends that their dads were dentists, and I had some that their dads were physicians, and I kind of saw that the guys that their dads were dentists, they were always the one that were coaching them, always at the ball games, always, going on vacations, taking time with them, versus, some of the other different types of specialties. They were always working, always on call, always getting called out in the middle of the night. And I kind of knew that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have a life. So
Mm-hmm.
I chose dental school, and then wound up doing a surgery specialty just because I got interested in that. But I think once you get into it, and I don't think it's that bad because everybody else is doing it. Everybody, maybe that's how it is if you're in jail. Everybody's doing it. It's not as bad as people think. I don't know. Sometimes I felt like I was in jail, but and you tell people, hey, they say, how much school did you do? I said, well, I did 4 years of college, 4 years of dental school, and then I wound up doing 4 more years of a residency. And they say, God, how did you go, 12 years after high school? And it was just kind of like, well, everybody else was doing it. I didn't really think it was that big of a deal, so
Mm-hmm.
it really didn't affect me too much. I had a lot of support. But wasn't too bad. I guess I always had that, that reached that goal in mind. Hey, I'm trying to get to this, and that really kept us going.
That reminds me of a story that I heard about Carol Burnett. She actually grew up in a fairly impoverished family, but she has always told the story that it never really bothered her because all of her friends and family were in the same situation, so she never realized there was anything uh, problematic about it. And so, yeah, I guess that helps, uh, and there have been a lot of studies that people have discovered that the 5 people that we surround ourselves with are actually the people that we actually end up becoming most like. And so certainly there is that camaraderie when going through a medical experience. But like you said, it was 12 years of of higher education schooling after 12 years of elementary school. Not something that everybody does. So you went through that program, and from what I had read, I think it was on your website. You graduated from college, and you had I think it was a job that was promised to you, or uh, or a likely chance of getting that, and then it fell through. And so there you were left with this fantastic degree and essentially no prospects. And so you decided that I'm going to start my own business. Tell us about that time in your life that had to be pretty traumatic and had to be somewhat of a shock. How did you deal with all of that?
Yeah, a lot of prayer for sure, and just people reaching out to me, and you just really see the good in people come out that empathize with our situation. And and one of the main guys that really helped me, he had gone through something similar, so he took me under his wing, showed me, 'cause, when you get a degree, whether it's medicine, dentistry, law, literally anything, you just learn that skill. They don't teach you anything about the business aspect or the financial aspect.
Right.
So that's something that I had to learn from him, actually how to run a business. Yeah, I can do the work, but I don't know, what's involved. And I think that's unfortunately why so many people now, they don't even attempt to start a practice. That's almost unheard of now, because they get out with so much debt, student loan debt, and now it's so expensive to start a practice and not have any patients come in. So it's very difficult. But he took me under his wing. He showed me the ropes, and after about 2.5 years, I took what I learned and was able to purchase the building that I'm in now, and start my own practice.
So, I mean, were you working alongside him as a partner, or how was that arrangement with
He
the significant?
is a different type of specialist. Endodontist, was a root canal specialist. So he had a building set up to where we were both there at the same time, and we shared staff members. But I was working using a lot of his staff, using his equipment, using his supplies, and we would split it, the cost like that. So, but I was learning from him how to, handle staff and train them and do all the things that are involved with running a practice.
And how were you generating a clientele?
That's something else that he helped out a lot. He had been here at that time, I think, practicing for about 15 years. So he helped me network with other dentists in the area that would refer him patients. And so I did that a lot, and that was very helpful.
So how were you dealing? I mean, you had $300,000 of student loan debt, and though it is a well-paying profession, you have to have clients if you're on your own there. And certainly, as you were starting this out, you couldn't have had an enormous client base there. How were you dealing with the stress? And this had to have, and you also, this was you were. Had your son just recently been born, or was your wife still carrying the child as you went into this? I can't remember exactly.
When I started, he was around 2 to 3 months old when.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he was just an infant. So so here you are starting a business, and you just became a new father. The stress had to be tremendous there. How were you dealing with that?
That's a good question. Again, I guess I really didn't have any other choice. Just I did work while I was building that practice. I did work at another office, a guy that I went to dental school with, going in and doing the surgical type of procedures for his office. And I did that for about 2 years. And I also went
Okay.
back to mowing yards some too. So I
Oh,
just,
wow.
I think I just stayed so busy and was really focused on trying to do everything I can to really start hammering those student loans,
Hmm.
um, and I think that's where I started acquiring the scarcity mindset, because I saw how quickly you can have everything taken away from you.
Hmm.
Just like that, just like the Corona pandemic, everyone is cruising around and not really thinking stuff, and think about within 2 months, literally every thing or every freedom that you've kind of had, it's been affected in one way or the other, and just how quickly things can happen. So it took me a long time to really get out of that scarcity mindset, that
Hmm.
there's only so much of things to go around, and I think that's really what holds people back a lot as well.
If you're just tuning into our program today, my guest today is Dr. Jeff Anzalone. He is a periodontist and a real estate investor, and he has a blog that is called debtfreedoctor.com, where he works with and encourages particularly other doctors, physicians, others in the medical field, to help them to do what he has done, to build wealth independence so that they are not trading their time for money. So, Jeff, tell us here just a bit. You just mentioned that aspect of a mindset of scarcity, and how uh, the the things that you were going through as you were starting your practice put you into that mindset of scarcity, but you have since learned to work your way out of that sense of scarcity and into a mindset of abundance. Uh, Share with us that path that you traveled to get from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset.
That it took me really about 13 to 14 years of being in a scarcity mindset. That's just really all that I knew. There's only,
Mhm.
so many patients to go around town. And it's almost like if you listen to everyone, or listen to the general public, you're the general consensus is a scarcity type mindset, from
Absolutely, yes.
growing up as well. And for people out there that grew up in a household that said, oh, we can't do that, or we can't afford this, or we can't go on this vacation, or I'll never have money to do that. And you keep hearing that and you start believing it, and
Well,
once,
yeah, I mean, it's a whole cultural mindset. I mean, you look at our government policymakers; they operate on a scarcity mindset,
mhm.
and yet we live in an abundant universe. So, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead with your
Oh,
train of
that's
thought.
okay. Yeah, you're right. We hear it from almost everyone. You don't really hear people that just talk about. Uh, there's only just a handful of people that I can think of that talk about having an abundant type mindset. So it's just not really common knowledge, and
Mhm.
that's really why I wanted to focus and stress that to my kids growing up, that there's plenty of money, or there's plenty of things to go around, that you just have to have the right mindset.
Mhm.
And I think once I started accomplishing some of the financial goals that I'd set, and just other doors started opening up, and one thing led to another, I kind of started realizing, hey, maybe there is something to these handful of people that talk about having an abundant mindset. And and I, I just I realized that uh, maybe I was listening to the wrong crowd. And now, you get to the point where you have things come up in your life, just like myself, and I could say, okay, well, I'm looking at this from a scarcity mindset, or I could look at this from an abundant type mindset, and you just have to choose my grandmother always used to say, son, make good decisions, you know? So, and it's true, whatever decision you make, that's really the path that it's going to lead you down.
I'd like to delve deeper into this, the transformation process. You describe it as a gradual process, and a lot of things in my life have been that gradual process as well. And it's not always easy to really chart out every step that one takes to what really is a paradigm shift, because going from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset is truly a major paradigm shift. So if you can give us really some basics as to how you actually did make that shift, if you can really delve deep into that, so you can just give us kind of a step-by-step, I guess you would call it pattern or map, so that others can actually follow that same path.
That's a very good question. I think that if you listen to what everyone is saying, or probably listen to people around you, and then you start listening to yourself and how you make day-to-day decisions, you'll probably realize that you have some sort of scarcity mindset, which I did, and which I continue to do, but not near as much. I don't think, for me, I'll ever have, just 100% abundant mindset, but it's much more than it used to. For me, it took, like I said, going through the different examples of life, and you're right, it was a gradual thing. Just like the older that I get, the more that I realize that certain things don't matter to me like they used to. Because I see a lot of this stuff through my kids. They're teenagers, and they think, it's the end of the world if they're not invited somewhere with their friends, or it's the end of the world if they lose a horse game in the driveway with dad, or they lose a football game or whatever. And then, as older you get, it's like, hey, that stuff, that doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. So I think, but that wasn't just like a shift that I just woke up one day and went, oh, it doesn't really matter if I win the game or not. It took several years, several experiences, and changing my priorities. So I think for me, that's probably how I went from a scarcity to an abundant mindset. It was a gradual process, and I just realized that looking back over my shoulder, that, all these things that have happened, and I continue to thrive and have success, but I've been so closed-minded. And once I really started just, I guess, more self-educating myself, there's plenty of literature and blog articles and books and probably podcasts and everything else about this. And if that's something that interests you, and there's a lot of speakers out there as well, and that probably several of those that I've listened to, and I always, hear people say, well, I think people think that if you listen to somebody, take Dave Ramsey, for instance, he was one of the ones that was really helped us, get out of debt, follow the game plan about, debt snowball, helping us with the student loans and building wealth and all that. But there's things that I don't agree with him. So I think if you're going to listen to someone, you don't have to, it's not all or nothing. You can take little bits and pieces from them. Tony Robbins is probably somebody that's a good example of teaches an abundant mindset. Yet I don't, agree with everything that he teaches, but you can take bits and pieces from people that, as you start learning and form your own opinion. And I think that people just need to learn how to think for themselves. But I think they're just told what to do so much. They're just kind of walking around like zombies. You know, you have a brain, use it, think. I mean, one of the most top selling, best selling investment books ever that was written back. I think it was written in the 30s by Napoleon Hill. It's called Think and Grow Rich. Think, use your brain, and that's what you have to do. And I can't make anybody think for themselves, but I guarantee you, once you start thinking for yourself and realizing most of this stuff is common sense, that it's not difficult. I mean, I'm a redneck from Louisiana that came from, you know, blue collared family, and I really taught all this, you know, myself. So it's, you can either be a victim or a victor, just whatever you want to do. It's however you really want to think. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, is how you think about the different things, your finances, your job, your career path, who, like you said, who you want to hang out with, what do you want to think about, the different things that you're reading. So, and you're going to have failures, and I've had tons of failures, but as long as you're realizing, you know, probably the biggest thing that propelled me to get into the multifamily space was a failure that I had, lost about $50,000 on a multifamily deal. And that failure made me realize I could have quit, but I realized that I had no idea what I was doing when I invested money in that deal. It was all my fault. So that really encouraged me and propelled me to really learn. And during that learning process, going to meetings, networking with people, finding a real estate mentor, it really opened my eyes. And I think probably spending 2.5 hours one day with my real estate mentor, I got home and I told my wife, I said, I learned more in 2.5 hours than I did in 4 years of college. No lie. The way that it opened my mind, I was so closed-minded, scarcity thinking. Then once you start hearing these stories about what these other people did, you're like, geez, you know, I could do that. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on it.
My guest today is Dr. Jeff Anzalone. And Jeff, we're running out of time here. Just a moment here. Let's see here. Timer's going off there. So for those just tuning in today, my guest is Dr. Jeff Anzalone, and he's been talking about that fascinating concept of shifting your paradigm from scarcity to abundance. And unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the program. There's so many things I would like to explore with Jeff in regards not just to that particular paradigm shift that he went through, but many other aspects of his life. So we'll have to get back together with Jeff in the future here. Jeff, I have one more question that I ask all of my listeners. Before I get to that, share with our viewers and listeners how they can get in touch with you.
Probably the easiest way is the website. It's debt-free. I wanted to get doctor.com, but that domain was already taken. So it's actually debtfreedr.com. But I've put together a free guide for your listeners, so they could go to debtfreedr.com/free guide.
So viewers, be sure and do that. There's lots of good information. I have visited his site, and I certainly recommend you taking a look there as well. My last question, Jeff, is when you come to this, the end of this life's journey, how do you want your epitaph to read?
Oh, wow. I've never thought about that. I don't think I've been ever asked that before. I think I would want something on there about him giving or him serving others, you know, because I've had so much given to me, And that's one of the reasons that I started my blog. Was I didn't want to keep all this stuff to myself. And I think that we have so much that we're given to. So there's so many people that you could help. So hopefully it'll say something about he was able to give and serve and affect other people for the better good of mankind.
Sounds like you're on that path, and I hope you have a long and prosperous life and many opportunities to give and to serve. Thanks for being on the show, Jeff.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to hopefully coming back in the future, and we could dive a little bit deeper into some conversations. I really enjoyed one of my favorite podcasts I've done yet, so I appreciate it.
I definitely will have you back on.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.